I'm indeed grateful, and I have to say I'm excited to be in this presence here with all of you, and having been invited by the Rivers State Sustainable Development Agency and other organizers of this summit. And I'm here presenting my keynote address, and the topic, of course, as we know, is sustaining youth engagement in development. This summit, which is the first of its kind, is most relevant at this time of our economic transitioning, especially with the theme of the summit being youth leading entrepreneur in a non-oil economy. Before I continue with today's address, I think it is important to address the key themes in this topic, which are engagement, of course. It means the youth engagement and development, and in this context, I mean economic development of our state and the teeming youth. Economic development refers to sustained, concerted actions that promote the standard of living and economic well-being of a specific area. These concerted efforts will translate into creation of employment, new income, and expansion of existing income and businesses. Contribution to the gross domestic product, which is also the GDP, and improvement in livelihood and well-being. Permit me to say that these are indicative of economic development or well-being. By this, I'll pause to recognize Mr. Fo and Mr. Omorike. I thank you for your illuminating renditions here and the experiences you have that has blessed all of us. You have really motivated me, and I'm sure you've done the same for all the youth here. I'm hoping that by the time we invite you again on a larger scale to speak to the youth of River State, that you will oblige us with your presence. Thank you very much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, one would ask, why spend the day discussing our youths and then urging them to reorient their minds and refocus on entrepreneurship activities that will make them job creators rather than job seekers? I would answer back and say that half of the world's population is made up of young people, 90% of whom live in developing countries. In fact, the Nigerian population is nearly 50% youth populated, of which 54% are unemployed according to the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS 2014. Here in our state, youths between the ages of 15 to 35 account for nearly 60% of our population, of which 40% reside in the urban local government areas of Port Harcourt local government area, Obiapo, Elime, Oyibo, Boni, Ahoda, Ori, and Onelga. It is pertinent to know that more than half of these youth population in the urbanized local government areas are unemployed and are obviously job seekers, seeking employment in the Shell Petroleum Development Company, Total, Chevron, Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas, Indorama, and other white or blue collar jobs. If there were adequate jobs, these youths would be engaged, but the gap between available job opportunities and youths keep widening. I'm particularly glad to hear that RSSDA is partnering with Nigeria Stability and Reconciliation Program, NSRP, and utilizing funds from the United Kingdom's Department of International Development, DFID, to conduct a labor markets assessment, LMA, on the skills gap between youth labor in demand and supply sides in our state. The recommendations of this assessment will no doubt be useful for planning an effective, sustainable engagement of youths. Again, on the question of why youths, I will further respond that youths are tomorrow's leaders. They are tomorrow's parents, tomorrow's professionals, and tomorrow's workers, as well as today's assets. Fully supported and given the right opportunities, girls and boys, young women and young men can play different significant roles in lifting themselves, their families, and communities out of poverty. Too often, however, our youth are considered only or mainly as a problem to be contained and a threat to peace and security, which is quite sad. So you can see why it's important and imperative to sustainably engage youth in the development of our society and states. They will engender economic development, create opportunities for employment through their enterprise development in all sectors of the economy, and ensure that peace and security is maintained. At this juncture, let me pause to thank our proud River State son, Mr. Eberechi Suzette, the Managing Director of Heritage Bank, for providing necessary information on his bank's effort at supporting entrepreneurship. And this is very much in tune with the theme of this summit. We must begin to engage our youths in entrepreneurship rather than waiting for white or blue collar jobs. Many developing scholars have posited widely on entrepreneurship and its potency, thus underscoring its quintessence, significance and germaneness to the development of any given economy. In Europe, Asia, and the Americas in relation to the roles played by entrepreneurship further buttresses the fact that the importance of entrepreneurship cannot be overemphasized, especially among the young people in developing countries. Studies have established its positive relationship with stimulation of economic growth and empowerment of the disadvantaged segments of the population, which includes women and the poor, and also examines the major problems of entrepreneurship and thus proposing some possible measures. Today we are gathered under this marquee to address youth entrepreneurship development and provide information that will reorient our youth and begin to see themselves as job creators through entrepreneurship rather than job seekers. However, the success rate of small and medium enterprises has been very low. Businesses have barely survived, let alone thrive beyond incubation period. Some have downsized to the barest minimum, others press on anticipation of a better tomorrow, yet many more have been frustrated to closure. The present challenging state of the nation's economy is a sad reminder that the country's tremendous potentials for growth and poverty reduction are far from being fully exploited. With every or no new non-oil local and foreign investment taking place in the last 1 year, the outlook for gross domestic product growth remains bleak. Much of the socio-economic infrastructure built upon during the oil boom years have deteriorated. Other support institutions and relief measures have been established to render assistance and provide succor to minimize the constraints which entrepreneurs typically face, so as not to eliminate them. The support institutions supported by the state government includes the first River State Microfinance Agency, RIMA, re-empowered and designed to focus on the funding of small and medium enterprises, and even the River State Sustainable Development Agency, RSSDA, to provide this kind of platform for supporting entrepreneurial development among youths. The comfort here is that the state government is neither relenting nor giving up in its quest to revamp and invigorate the fortunes, particularly in a non-oil economy as we are currently facing, to enable youths to play the expected role in the state and nation's economic growth and development. Your Excellency, Chairman for today's occasion, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, another inhibitor for sustainable youth engagement in development vis-a-vis entrepreneurship is the non-visible or unimplementable government policy on youth entrepreneurial development, as we do not have a national policy on entrepreneurship. Although the Central Bank of Nigeria is championing youth enterprise development as well as the Bank of Industry, the national policy will deliberately draw attention of both the public and private sector players to focus on entrepreneurial development for youths as enshrined in the Sustainable Development Goals. Again, the poor response of financial institutions continues to demotivate young people who want to be entrepreneurs. Good that our own brother and shining star, Mr. Sekibor, is here represented. These young and budding entrepreneurs are unable to provide collateral security for the loans or the takeoff capitals for their enterprises, and banks are not prepared to play with these small digit account balance entrepreneurs. Having listened to the representative of Mr. Eberechi Suzette, we can imagine if every bank in Nigeria takes the position of the Heritage Bank and supports our youth. what a better Nigeria we will have. The banks impose various conditions for the grant of loans, and of course these young entrepreneurs will fail to comply with the conditions and are unable to secure the loan, thereby killing their dreams and setting up their own enterprise. Helpful attitude of lending institutions will go a long way in stimulating entrepreneurial climate. Another major challenge in the development of entrepreneurship in the state is insecurity. Global maintenance of law and order and effective security is a Herculean task and requires an inclusive approach. What I mean is provision of security through prevention of violent crimes, kidnaps, and robbery as a collective responsibility of the state government as well as everyone in the states. We all have our part to play there. Recent investments in improving security by the government have largely reduced the incidence of kidnaps, violent crimes, and robbery, and there are still room. This is a serious problem the entrepreneur faces in Nigeria from within, which are local producers, and also without, who are also foreign producers. The local entrepreneurs are not protected, and the situation is worsened by the aberrant lack of faith in the Nigerian patent law, which many entrepreneurs feel offers them little protection against piracy. This further is buttressed when you examine the piracy issues around the entertainment industry. At this juncture, it is important for me to mention that the task of engaging our youth for entrepreneurial development is not only for the state government, but the collaboration of partnerships of all stakeholders in the state. Everyone has a role to play. I'm aware of the positive contributions of some private sector organizations here present and which they are making in this direction, and they all have one form of youth engagement or the other for enterprise development, and it behooves on all of us, public and private sector actors, to coordinate and harmonize activities as well as share information so efforts are not duplicated. Distinguished guests and summit participants, I'd like to highlight some of the benefits of young entrepreneurs in the economic development of our state and nation. Development practitioners argue that capital and output growth in an economy depends significantly on the entrepreneur. The quality of performance of the entrepreneur determines whether capital will grow rapidly or slowly, and whether the growth involves innovation where new products and production techniques are developed. Young entrepreneurs have led and will continue to lead economic revolution, which repeatedly improves the standard of living for people everywhere. The contributions of small and medium-scale entrepreneurs in the industrial sector of Nigeria's gross domestic product are valued at about 37%, thereby making it the second largest contributor to the nation's GDP, while non-oil activities contributed for nearly 45% of the nation's GDP. Young entrepreneurs become job creators rather than job seekers. The labor-intensive nature of small businesses enables them to create more jobs than the big businesses. The existence of small-scale businesses in the state will provide job and employment to many citizens. In Colombia, India, Indonesia, Kenya, Tanzania, and Zambia, small and medium-scale enterprises employ more than 50% of the workforce. Similarly, they accounted for 99% of the 11.6 million enterprises created in the European Union. In Nigeria, for instance, small-scale businesses constitutes 85% of all firms operating in the economy, and like in most other developing countries, they employ the largest number of workers. A study done by the Federal Office of Statistics showed that over 90% of all businesses in Nigeria employs less than 100 employees, meaning that the sector provides on average 50% of Nigeria's employment and 50% of its industrial output. Another benefit of sustaining of sustaining engaging youths through entrepreneurship is the mitigation or curbing of rural-urban drift syndrome. The migration of rural dwellers to the cities in search of white-collar jobs has resulted in congestion, high incidence of crimes, and depletion of resources and overutilization of public infrastructure. Inadvertently, this strengthens our naira as we buy the naira to grow the naira, the famous cliche from our common sense senator, our respected Ben Bruce. Your Excellency, our summit participants, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in closing, I must say that the benefits of engaging our youth for entrepreneurship and leadership cannot be overemphasized. We have seen that entrepreneurship is essential for rapid and sustained economic growth and development. It creates the required manpower and skills necessary for Excellency, who will be joining so as to help engage our youths appropriately for economy revamp and nation building. The state government, under my husband's focused and able leadership, will continue to create an investor-friendly environment and legislate on policies that will encompass stable macroeconomic situation and ensure security and protection of lives and property in the state. The contributions of our dear senior advisor, or special advisor, to the governor on investment and the Executive Director of the Bureau of Public-Private Partnership, Mr. Nemi Jack, is commendable as they try to make our state investor-friendly and ensure that the state ranks favorably well in future World Bank Ease of Doing Business ranking in Nigeria. The educational sector needs to revamp their curriculum to reflect today's enterprise mindset and realities. There is need to transform the mindset of young people to embrace entrepreneurial development and utilization of numerous opportunities that abound for the market. And know that my brothers and sisters at the MDAs, the RSSDA, RIMA, BPP, and Office of the Senior Assistant to the Governor on Investment will take us to our expected heights with regards providing the necessary support for youth entrepreneurship development. Support services that will include coaching, handheld mentoring, monitoring, performance against set indicators, and peer reviews and referencing will aid growth of the state youth entrepreneurial base. Before I end, I would like to thank the Executive Director of the RSSDA again for inviting me here, and also the ladies who are here interpreting, so that those of us who can't hear what we have been hearing will be part of all of this. And of course, I thank the sensational Bamidele for warming up the place. You're indeed sensational. Always good to see you. And I thank you all for listening.